Hey, what's going on, everyone? Sam Clymer here with Lake Pro Tackle. Guys, we've got an amazing tip video for you today. We're going to be showing you how to properly spool your bait casting reel. Now, there's a lot of ways to do it. Some of them are a little better than others, but this is going to be the correct way, most foolproof way to get the best performance out of your line and your reel. All right, so this applies to monofilament, fluorocarbon, and braid. So what you're going to do is I've just got some simple 14-pound line here, and I'm going to use this this bar right here to hold the spool as just a template. Now you can hold this any way you want. Some people stick a pin through the spool or hold it with their fingers. Just watch out when you're holding it with your fingers. Sometimes there's a little nick or notch inside the spool that can cut you up a little bit. So just be careful. If it's not smooth, I highly suggest putting it on something like a rod or a pin or any bar that can hold that spool. I sometimes use a screwdriver at home. Now, here's a Baitcast reel right here, very simple. This is actually the Jordan Lee reel. We're gonna be spooling it up for a customer today. So I decided to make this video for y'all. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stick the line through the line guide there. And what I like to do, the nice thing about these Abu reels and some of the other reels on the market is they've got holes in the spool. What you can do is you can put that line right there, give it about one turn, pull it back through. So now that line is all the way around that spool. You can pull both ends and just tie a simple little clinch knot, or you can do an overhand knot. I highly suggest doing something that won't come undone. So I'm going to do a little clinch knot, wrap it around itself a couple times, stick it back through that loop, and there we go. So it's going to tighten down just like that. And before I tighten it down, actually, I'm going to trim the tag in. So I've got a little pair of snippers here, like so. And now I'm just going to tighten it down. Make sure that knot is nice and tight to that spool, so when we start spooling, that line's going to go on nice and tight and not slip. That knot's not going to slip. Now here's the biggest key. So you can see here that I have the line on top of the spool. This is very important. This is the correct way. The incorrect way is putting your line on going from under the spool. Now, when you put your line on going under the spool, let's think about this. When you want to spool it up, you want it to go on the same way it's spooled on the spool. So let's just call it clockwise and counterclockwise if you're holding them sideways here. Now, if you put the counterclockwise line on a clockwise spool, it's going to be wanting to jump off a lot easier, and that's what happens. And one of the big mistakes a lot of people make when they are spooling their reel is that line just wants to jump off, and it creates a lot of bird nesting issues. So when you put it on over the top, it is going on correctly and is going on smoothly. You're taking that same wrap that line's been on from that spool and putting it on the spool in your reels. All right, guys, now that we have the line coming over the top of the spool, we've got the knot tied and cinched down. All we have to do is spool her up. All right, guys, and that is how to properly spool your baitcaster reel. Very, very simple. You know, it's just one thing you have to look out for. A lot of beginners will flip their spool over and complain that they're backlashing a lot, and the first thing I ask is, do you know which way you spooled your line on? And a lot of them, you know, have no idea. It's just an unconscious decision that they do to put it on the bottom side. So make sure you're being a little more conscious of which way you're putting that line on the spool. Make sure it's going over the top. And we'll give you another tip here in just a second. All right, guys, so now I have a smaller spool, your more traditional spool of line. Not everyone has those big bulk spools. I know they get expensive, but this is just a standard 200-yard spool of line here. And what we're going to do is show you how to spool it on if you don't have a rod or something to hold it with. So here we go. All right, so the steps for spooling up this line are going to be exactly the same. However, this is one way that I've learned to spool up my reels very simply. And what I like to do is I'm going to take this line here. I'm going to get a little bit off. I go through the first guide. You can go through the last guide, but a lot of the times I'll just go through the first guide down your rod. So bring out some line so you can work with it. And I'm kind of floating here. I usually set the rod between my legs or kind of hold it a little more steady. So we're going to try to do it midair here. So once I get that line through the line guide, stick it in the spool, tie a knot up. I'm not going to tie a knot, but definitely if you want to tie a knot, you can. Tim, our tackle expert, resident tackle junkie, we like to call him, right, Tim?
That's correct.
He'll just stick it in the holes in the spool here, and nothing wrong with that. He says he's never had anything fly out, so I trust him on that one. But whichever one you prefer, you can do that. So we've got the line in there. We're gonna lock it down, make sure it gets a little cinched before you start going. So now that we've got the knot tied and we've got the line through the first eyelet here, this makes it nice and compact. Instead of going all the way through every single one of your guides, I just do the first one. So here we go. So when you're spooling it up this way in a nice compact situation, and you can hold the line with one hand and hold the rod with one hand, this is the only time you want to go under. So let's think about it this way. You've got the line going under it when it's next to your hand here. But when you bring it out, it's actually going over. So because you go through that one guide, and because you hold it behind that guide, you want to actually go under. So that line is coming from the underside here as opposed to on top. Now when you flip it the other way, that line is going to go back onto the reel the opposite way. So when you are spooling it this way, I know it's two different ways, might get confusing, but if you're holding it out in front of the reel, you want over. If you're going from under next to the reel, you want to go under. So I like to hold the rod with 2 fingers here, hold the spool with my thumb and middle finger going from the underside, and all you do, just crank it on like this, and you're ready to go. Once you get done with that, snip the end, thread the line back through all your guides, and you're ready to fish. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Definitely subscribe, leave a like on this video if you want to see more tips and tricks, and also lake reports coming out. We will be moving the lake reports over to the website once that's rebuilt. However, we just got a new bait testing tank, and we're going to be doing a lot of bait demos, and I will be at Baitcast when this video comes out. So be on the lookout for stuff on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll be going live with certain anglers, certain companies. So if you have a product that you want to see here in the shop, we've been watching a whole lot of different products come out, and we are very excited to get our hands on those and check them out for ourselves. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.